Okay, we are live, and hello, Street Fight politicians. We have Doc Eddie, Harry, Louie, who hasn't been here for a few shows, so I think he's going to have some good insights for us. And Ken, Harry and Ken are holding down the East Coast. We're doing our best out here on the West Coast. So, it's like when the Russians invade, we've got both sides of the country covered.
I do have to ask Ken, how's the snow in your area? Did it get there?
We're just right at the edge of like the sleet rain line. So all day long I've been watching it sleet for a while, then turn back to rain, sleet for a while, turn back to rain. I don't think we're expecting the big storm next weekend.
Okay.
The one coming up from the southwest. That's when we always get hammered. Now you guys got a lot.
Yeah, we got about 7 or 8 inches out here
Nice.
near Leesburg, Virginia, and
Nice.
it started snowing a little bit after midnight last night, and it's been coming down all day, and it's nice right now, but tomorrow it's going to turn, as my wife calls it, it's going to turn to snert.
The dirty snow.
Yeah.
But 4 years ago today, it was about 20 degrees warmer, believe it or not, in the 40s, and it was just sleety, rainy snot coming out of the sky. And a friend of mine and I had decided we were going to go watch the show on the Ellipse. We were going to see the madness that Trump had called in. So we showed up and kind of wandered around the mall for a while, but not much was happening except at the Ellipse. And you got down there. And for people who don't know, the Ellipse is that area, just literally, it's like the lawn of the Washington Monument, between the Washington Monument going up to the White House. And you couldn't get to the White House part of it, but you could get to that very southern tip. And there were barricades and fences set up and a big stage, a big flatbed platform stage. And we showed up just as the idiots started to talk, and it was a huge crowd. It wasn't a million people like they would have you believe, but it was several, tens of thousands of folks that were in the area, and a lot of them were like our age, and then a lot of them weren't. So anyway, I got down there, my friend and I took him because I wanted to make sure I had some backup. And as you can see, I kind of fit right in with the crowd, so that was easy. And then I just started taking videos, just random videos. I wasn't there to video the whole thing because there were plenty of news cameras, and one more wouldn't add anything. I pretty much videotaped me being there to say that I was there and that I had some credibility in talking about it. You were going to say, Ed? There you go. Yeah. So there you are, and this is a short video. That's what I rocked up on.
I don't know. To me, it sort of has the vibe.
I love they're playing Macho Man.
So we got a bunch of Republicans out here in red hats, Trump flags, a Trump flag train that I just filmed, and Macho Man is playing, and the smell of weed is pretty intense. Not something I would have expected at a Republican rally even 4 years ago, but here's where we are.
January 6, 2020, 4 years ago today. Wow.
So
2021, right?
Yeah, 2021. Correct, sir. I want to note that last week I had the numbers wrong. This week it's our anesthesiologist. So think about that next time you go under. No, I'm not going to go through the blow by blow, but the reality is right after that we started getting Rudy Giuliani and all the idiots up there talking, there were a bunch of people that were high in the crowd. There were a bunch of people that were not. We watched it. I heard him say, we got to fight. I heard him say, we're going to walk to the Capitol. I'm going to be there with you. And then I watched them all do a right face and right flank march straight down Congress Avenue, I think it was, or maybe Constitution Avenue. There it is, onto the Capitol. And at that point, I got on a metro and got the hell out of there. Part of me said, maybe I ought to go take a look. But you know what? It was cold and wet and rainy, and I was tired, and I didn't want to get caught up in that. And I hadn't even gotten halfway home on the train when my phone started lighting up. And I remember I texted Ed and said, I was there. I saw this. And Ed, you asshole, you said, go back and take video. And I'm like, no fucking way. No, I'm not doing that. I've been shot at and missed and shit at and hit. I don't need to go there and do that again. So, but yeah, I was there, and I'll tell you right now, absolutely, it was an incitement to riot that I watched, and I don't care who says otherwise. I saw those people. I saw them incited, and I saw them move to put action to it, and I sat there like the rest of us for the rest of the day watching in horror as our Capitol was taken down. So there, that was us 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it was like, I was in my anesthesia residency when the Challenger blew up. And so I happened to be on a break and catch that. And it was just like you knew that was going to be something you always remember where you were.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with January 6th. I was between cases from the OR, wander over, look up at the TV, and it was like, oh my God. Is that really happening? I mean, this like, out of a movie where you see, they're invading El Presidente's palace down in, some third world shithole, as they like to say. And no, it was Capitol building in Washington, D.C., the United States. And it stayed with me.
You know what I remember is the number of Trump supporters who texted me or called me or sent me messages on Facebook that evening and said, you were right. I'm sorry. I never should have voted for that. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't think it would go that far, blah, 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 blah. Almost all of whom turned right around and voted for him again.
Absolutely. That's a done deal.
I don't know how you make that stick. I mean, do you remember how that felt? Do you remember the kick in the teeth? Do you remember your regret for voting for somebody who said he was only going to honor elections if he won? I don't know. I don't know how people flip that much. I don't know how memories are that short in just a couple of years, I guess.
I don't either. I'm totally with you, Ken. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. But I mean, when you look at it, you had this big contingent of youngsters in Gen Z who basically were too young to really have appreciated that. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm in, junior high school, I'm not, watching politics on TV. So,
right.
They got there. So for them, that there is no institutional memory.
I remember it would have been like about 2019, I guess, and I had fairly recently retired from the Army, and I realized that the guys that were going through basic training and heading out to Afghanistan then, because we were still there at that point, had been born after 9/11. They had no memory of anything else. And this strikes me as much the same, where there are kids who have no political memory of anything other than Trump. And that's normal. That really is heartbreaking that we talk about the press and media normalizing Trump. Society normalized him. These kids have grown up in that society, and he is normal. He's what they expect from politics. And I don't know how we get back from that. I really don't.
You remember who was the guy? I mean, it's not funny, but the guy with the horns from Arizona. He was.
Yeah. Shaman or something. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The point is that this guy went on to run for Congress. I mean.
Oh yeah, what a joke.
I mean, it's funny, but it's not in the sense that this stuff actually happens.
I remember back in it was probably the 80s, and we had Benito Mussolini's granddaughter and some Italian porn actress all in the Italian parliament and government, and then after that they had this like 3 times convicted prime minister, and you thought Italian politics are a joke,
right?
And they worked their way through it, but we are there now.
I mean, yeah.
QAnon shaman.
QAnon
shaman.
That's right.
Yeah, well, he served. I think he was in prison for like a few years, and then he.
No, he was. It was like less than a year sentence.
and then he came and I, if I recall, he ran for Congress this last go around. I mean, these people, they could win. I mean, these people win some places, you know. It's bizarre.
Well, you still got Boebert in Congress, for God's sake. I mean,
Hey, she's an arty person. I mean, look, I mean, she's going to theater and seeing plays.
different strokes for different folks.
Right, theater.
You know, I think I think all of this ties together in the way that, you know, we've talked about people who regretted their vote on that day, people who have grown up not knowing, or who didn't directly or viscerally experience that on the day, people who were involved on the day and have apparently been rehabbed in the public sphere. And it all seems to me like these things only seem strange to us because nobody in this conversation grew up in the kind of media bubble that these people are in now. All those people who texted me and apologized for having voted and said they regretted their vote, well, they then sat down in their comfortable media bubble and were told, you know, it wasn't that big a deal. You know, things got a little bit out of hand, that there was probably some police that opened a door, that there was, you know, this, and that message has continually morphed.
I've got news for you. The bubble is actually stronger than ever because almost all the legacy mainstream media has bended a knee, kissed the ring.
Yep.
And you've got the Washington Post refusing to run, you know, a editorial cartoon, you know, that is tough on Trump. You know, Meta and Facebook, you know, they're, you know, actively, you know, throttling accounts.
Right.
You know, X, forget X. I mean, that's just, you know, it's done.
Yeah.
You know, and so the Los Angeles Times, you know, that guy is, you know, also thrown in. I mean, even the New York Times is, you know, afraid to really come out and hit back. You know, I don't know where you go. I mean, I think these shows that we're doing are actually, you know, the place where the fight starts.
Oh, you know, I was talking to one of our interns a couple weeks ago even, and you know, we're talking about how different things are and the bubble that they're growing up in or vice versa. But one of the things that hit me was, you know, and I'm sure you all can remember going to DC, say, you know, 20 years ago, there were no barriers. Everything was pretty much open. Getting into the Capitol wasn't like it is.
Mm-hmm.
But to one of our interns who recently interned on the Hill, that's normal to them. You know, the security, the barriers, the cameras, things like that. Just it's a testament to how different things are. But the shame is that they know no difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my sons think there's nothing weird about having to take your shoes off before you fly.
That's right.
They've always had to. It doesn't seem odd to them at all, and that's a little heartbreaking.
It is. It really
Well,
is.
and the problem is that one idiot, you know, tries to light his shoes on fire, and for the last 20 years,
Right?
Yeah.
You know, we've been taking our damn shoes off because of, you know, and it's, you know, it's like generals fighting the last war.
Right.
You know, if I'm going to be a terrorist, I'm not coming full frontal through the frickin' TSA. You know, I'm coming up with you know, I'm doing a workaround on that.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure they've gamed it out, but it's like, you know,
Just theater.
the only people we're catching are the idiots that forget, you know, they've got a 308 bullet gym bag.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And then they get pulled out of line, miss their flight, and a $15,000 fine.
I forget what movie we were watching over the holidays, some throwback movie, you know, it was like 1990s travel. Oh, I know exactly what it was. It was the Bruce Willis movie where he's in where he's in the high tower, the
Die Hard?
Yes. And he's getting on the plane.
It's a
And
Christmas.
he's got a gun because he's a cop, and
Right.
you know, and it's just like, okay, none of that shit would ever happen. None of that. It's like completely unrealistic now. And I think about what my grandchildren are going to look at watching that movie, because I know who their parents are, and they're going to make them watch it, and they're going to be like, "Wow, that's like watching a black and white movie from 1933."
I told my daughter-in-law that, the plane used to hit 10,000 feet and everybody on the plane lit up, lit
Oh,
a
yeah.
cigarette. Told her
I hated that era.
there used to be ashtrays built in the arm of every seat. She did not believe me. She thought I was lying.
Really?
Yeah. She said, well, what did people do who were allergic to cigarettes? And I said, I don't really think that
Held
has
your
been
breath
invented
for
yet.
3.5
Yeah.
hours.
Right.
Yeah, they literally sucked it up.
Cockpit doors are locked. I mean, yeah, no, it wasn't a whole different,
Yeah, she thought I was making that up. But anyway, yeah, but what it goes back to is that, there was pushback, like on the shoe thing, on a lot of the TSA garbage early on. But if they manage to hold on to that for 20 years, that just becomes the new normal.
It does.
And my sons didn't even occur to them to be angry about that.
Here's
Yeah.
the biggest difference I see between 9/11 and January 6th. After 9/11, every politician fell all over themselves to do something.
Right.
And so, we, gave up a shitload of civil liberties, with, basically our own form of the Gestapo with the TSA. They haven't gotten there, but, it only just takes flip of a switch to get there. You go from scanning your eyeballs and showing your papers and all the other stuff that you have to do to get on. I mean, in reality, when you go through the TSA line, you're involved with the U.S. prison system because they have a list of guys that they want to stop. And if you're on the list, they quietly take you out of line and take you to jail.
Right.
Unless, of course, you're like that little old lady who figured out a way to work around the system and sleep in the bathroom overnight and then work herself onto the plane the next day.
Really?
So, yeah, you didn't see that?
Oh,
There's been like 2 security breaches where they literally got on the plane and somebody had to stop the plane, disembark everybody and find the person who had snuck on. Anyway, that happened.
Flight to France, and she got through the TSA checkpoints and got on the plane without a boarding pass. And then the only reason they caught her was because it was a sold-out flight. So if she could have slipped into an empty seat, she would have made it no problem.
Good.
Yeah, but it was a sold-out flight, so she was trying to hop from bathroom to bathroom.
But anyway, to complete my thought, the difference, we did all these things on 9/11. January 6th, what have we done?
Right.
We put Merrick Garland in, who did nothing. Just a disaster placement by Biden.
So, Ed, you will remember this. The previous iteration of this show, we did this show for about 6 or 8 months, leading up to the 2020 election. And I was there on 9/11, to talk about it. And we did all those things. And it was shortly after that when you saw Mitch McConnell come out and, even though he didn't support impeachment, this is going to go to the courts and he'll never be anything again. And everybody talking bad about Trump. And we just kind of said, well, there's no more need for the show. We're done. We now we've righted the ship and everything is fine. And we've got some bumps ahead, but there's no real reason for us to carry on. And then it all fell flat because MAGA, the rank and file, the idiots, continue to support the guy. And they're the ones that have the real political power in the Republican Party. And that's pretty much the end of Mitch McConnell. It was a long, slow decline, but and his style of old style Republican politics are dead. And we're going to see this here in the new Senate and new House.
What do you all think we see day one?
As in like the 20th?
Yeah, correct. Mm-hmm.
I wish I knew what his actual power would be over some of these things, I think you're going to see the flags go back up to full staff. Yeah, I think you're going to see that probably within a few minutes. But how long does it take for his executive, and how much energy does he have?
Right.
Because I think that's the real question: is how much energy does he have, and that's maybe the question.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, but he's just a lot older. You can just see it. I don't necessarily think that makes him, a wiser, more calm.
Oh my God! Have you ever seen any demented person that got wiser and calmer?
Yeah, better. Right. Yeah, no, I have not. I mean, no, absolutely not. Yeah, he just might be asleep at the wheel a bit because he's older, and that's even more dangerous, I think, in some cases.
Well, I mean,
around him.
follow that thought, Louis, I think that's why you see all these billionaires and oligarchs down there, because they know that,
Right.
they're there to be part of the feeding frenzy because they know they're going to be able to take advantage of it. And, get him to roll over to do what they want, just by smiling at and saying, oh, you're the greatest, and here's some money for your inaugural, whatever.
Right.
And by the by, could you have your boys pass this legislation so that we can take over this industry?
I think that's the scariest thing, is that dynamic, which is that even with our most powerful Republican presidents, there was always the dynamic tension between the three branches of government.
Right.
And this is the first time that I think can imagine in history where that was gone, where they're all beholden to MAGA. And Trump holds the keys to MAGA. So they're all going to do what MAGA says. So both houses of Congress, I think, are in the bag. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of friction from either the House or the Senate. Certainly not the House, other than just their normal, they can't get their shit together anyway.
Well, I think that's the saving grace. They can't.
Yeah. And then, well, yes, that is probably the saving grace. And then SCOTUS is
oh my God.
They're a mess, So yeah, that's my big fear, is that we now have all three branches of government controlled by one really recidivistic group.
Boy,
with 4 years, knowing that they have a very limited clock to run it, that makes it even more
2 years,
or maybe two.
Or 2 years.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think they're going to get through 2 years. I mean, I'm hoping the Democrats do what they're supposed to do, and that is sit with their hands firmly under their seat. And when they say we need your votes, it's like, you've got all the votes you need. You need to get your members in line and get a bill passed. They gain nothing by helping Mike Johnson. Zero.
No, in fact, they lose.
They lose. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's interesting to watch what Biden has been quietly doing over the past several weeks.
Salting the earth.
Yeah, as in he really has. And some of these are, in showy ways. Like today, he basically put off limits forever, whatever that means, offshore oil drilling in most of the United States, most of the continental U.S. I don't know how difficult that will be for Trump to overturn. I don't know if it matters, but he's been doing that. But at the same time, today with the January 6th vote to certify the election, he's been really showing the Democrats in a different light to the Republicans. And I don't know. I hope it matters. I don't know if it will. I don't know if anybody will remember.
I really don't
think will they remember. I don't know either. That's definitely a good question.
Biden, I've got my issues with him. I've got my problems with him, but I'm the infrastructure guy. I'm in construction, right? Every president since Clinton has been promising a big infrastructure bill. Biden was the only one that was able to get that together and get it passed.
Yeah.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for the way the guy has brought so much manufacturing back to the U.S. and done it with incentives.
Thank God,
in conjunction with tariffs. Yeah, the trade imbalances have actually shifted in significant ways during this administration. I think he's put on a masterclass in statesmanship with the way he's handled Ukraine.
Absolutely.
I just think that's exactly what I want. I don't want blowhards and blustering and personalization of a conflict. I want working with allies and strengthening coalitions and sanctions and attacking a problem from multiple directions. It's been a masterclass, but he has not gotten credit, and I don't know if that's a media thing. I don't know if that's a humility thing. I don't know.
Yes.
All of the above. It has even on the economy, we've done so much better post-COVID, post-pandemic,
than anybody
in the economic recovery than any other developed country in the world.
Yeah,
and none of that. Maybe it wouldn't crack that right-wing media bubble anyway. Maybe it doesn't matter.
That's why commercials on the right-wing media. It's like that's why I put Pete Buttigieg, who I thought was a great spokesman for us.
And
would go right into the lion's den and
It's true.
and do well.
I kind of hope he would be the nominee, to tell you the truth.
I'll tell you what. In 2028, I got the date right. In 2028, I would certainly vote for Pete Buttigieg as either the nominee, to be the nominee, and certainly the president. Smart guy, exactly the kind of smarts that we need,
right?
And plenty of runway ahead of him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and very relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to see a veteran in the White House again, to tell you the truth. I mean, maybe that's a purely selfish outlook, but I think that would be a big plus. And I think he's handled himself very well.
You don't think J.D. Vance is a veteran? Thank you for your service, J.D.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever that was.
Well, I mean, Pete's going to be running for governor in Michigan. So that's
Michigan, really?
Oh, absolutely. He lives in Michigan now.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, he did move to Michigan.
Is termed out, and there's no chance he can get elected in Indiana. Michigan's a different story. And
well, I agree with you.
He's been telegraphing that for a while.
Yeah.
And I would totally. Gretchen Whitmer. I was expecting her to be somewhere on the slate this past year, but certainly in the future, she's got a great future ahead of her. I mean, she's incredibly photogenic. She's very well represented. I mean, she's got, I think, everything to include a success.
Well, you guys that are in Arizona, what do you think of Mark Kelly? Since we're on the topic.
I'd like him better as senator, not president.
Not a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I think he's low key, honestly. I don't think he's that marketable.
Right.
I mean, you've got the whole Navy pilot, astronaut thing going on, but it's like, I just don't think he has the gravitas really to do it. I think he's way better and more effective as a senator.
Okay.
Kind of like John Glenn in that regard. And I don't mean to just, play on the astronaut thing, but, a smart guy knows what he's doing, knows what he knows, but not going to take the lead. He's just not
bit of
that
a Boy
guy.
Scout kind of.
It's not his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of which,
I agree with you that he's more of an Arizona senator, kind of a U.S. Senate. That's his place,
Gotcha.
I can see him running for governor of Arizona, though. I can see that. That'd be smart.
Speaking of which, speaking of John Glenn, the rocket named after him, the New Glenn, may be launching, what is it, the 8th? When they're talking about January the 8th? This is, you guys should probably pay attention a little bit. This Blue Origin. Well, here's the thing. Blue Origin is the only rocket company which has even the potential, is even kind of in the ballpark of offering a little bit of competition to SpaceX.
Yeah.
They've actually got a first stage which may be capable of returning, which will bring launch costs down and may offer. Now, this thing isn't nearly the cargo capacity size of like the Starship that Musk has been launching out of Texas. It's kind of going to fall between a little more than the Falcon 9, a little less than a Falcon Heavy. So that's going to be well capable of national defense payloads, of all sorts of taking a lot of commercial contracts away from SpaceX, which would be nice to see them get a little bit of competition. And I think there are an awful lot of international customers out there that are sort of eager to get away from anything else has anything to do with.
I agree with you, but one's owned by Elon Musk, the other's Jeff Bezos.
Exactly.
Literally the two richest men on the planet.
Are you saying that Bezos is just not quite as evil as Musk?
No, they're both pretty evil. But
pretty evil.
Musk is just more open about it.
As I wait for my Amazon orders to arrive in the next several days. We had I can't think of his name at the moment. Our guest Tom Zellner.
Oh, Tom Zellner.
Yeah, I think you had him on a couple of times, and Tom said a very wise thing that I wish I could support, but I can't because I'm too damn weak. And that is when the Washington Post refused to endorse a candidate, and the rest of us, or some of us at least, were canceling our Washington Post subscriptions. He said, I support the media They need to continue doing what they're doing, even if imperfectly. I canceled my Amazon, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't. I don't know how to do that.
It's hard. It's hard. I've been trying. I sometimes I will look. I'll find what I want on Amazon. I go to the manufacturer's site. You know, it's going to be $30 shipping and take 2 weeks to get here, or I can get it on Amazon Prime next day. I went over to my local Lowe's Hardware on Saturday, and I had looked at some things on Amazon, and I thought, you know what, I got to go to Lowe's anyway. I'm not going to buy them from Amazon. I'm going to buy them from a local business, and they're 3 times the price.
Yeah,
the same stuff.
It just is, and I've done the same thing. I've done the same damn thing. You know, I guess the big difference is that Elon Musk, you know, would sell me a several $100,000 car that might explode, whereas at least Amazon brings me shit that I want.
Right, that's the whole difference. And return's pretty easy if you think about it. I mean,
I do want to talk about this exploding Cybertruck thing, you know, and this performative suicide that a lot of my readers want to call terrorism, and I can see why they want to, but it's really not. It's performative suicide. It's really no different in concept than a mass shooter who wants to go out in a blaze of glory. This guy just decided to do with fireworks and a rented truck instead of with an AR. And then he fucked it up, so he just killed himself, which I think is amazingly poetic. And in any normal event, I would feel terribly sorry for this guy because he was a veteran with PTSD. I have PTSD. I get it. I read his manifestos. I understand where his head was at. But, you know, in my darkest times when I was staring down the barrel of a gun, I was not thinking, oh, let me see if I can turn this on everybody else and share my pity party. Right. And he did. And that's where the break is for me. If I'm talking bad about a veteran who was suffering, it's simply because he decided to take that shit out on everybody else.
Do you feel like his intent was to drive that thing into a big crowd of people and pop it off?
Why else would you drive it into the entry of a hotel?
Right.
You know?
But there was nobody around, right? Or was it just there were people around and Tesla seems to be claiming the truck contained the blast.
Yeah, and my rate
I'm just going to accept that because I have no reason not to, and it is a sturdy vehicle. I'll give him that.
Right.
But I mean, he injured 7 people. This is a guy who clearly had a psychotic break.
Sure.
Yeah. Clearly, you know, in everything he's writing, he's got a psychotic break. He's not in reality anymore.
Sure.
From the time he rents that truck until the time he blows it up. And I mean, come on. I'm not a special forces guy, yet I've had enough explosive experience to know that, you know, a bunch of firecrackers in a car with propane canisters is not going to do much except kill you.
You could put a lot of ammo in the bed of a Cybertruck if that's
you certainly could.
Yeah.
That would have been a hell of a thing. But he even says in his notes he wants a fireworks display.
It's a show, yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, again, a break with reality completely.
Agreed.
Oh, and as far as carrying ammo, my Dodge Ram 1500 series pickup truck will carry more than that.
Why do you hate the Earth, Doc? Why do you hate the Earth?
I will tell you a long time ago in a training exercise far away, we did an ammo bomb, and we took a lot of people won't get this, but we took a 105 millimeter shell casing for a 105 millimeter cannon, which is not huge. It's, you know, maybe a meter tall and 6 inches, 105 millimeters wide. And we packed it with ammo. So I don't know, 20, 30 pounds, maybe. And, you know, we made an ammo bomb, and the whole thing was to be a big display because Colin Powell was going to come watch our fireworks exercise, and we did that. And and when that thing went off, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing, but we knew enough to make a bomb. And when that thing went off, I swear to God, because it was buried in the ground and all the force went straight, it made like 3 iterations of a mushroom cloud. It was so impressive. People stopped shooting. We were supposed to be shooting, and people just kind of stopped and went, wow, look at that. Colin Powell was impressed. I will say he was impressed. He thought we were the bomb. But my point is, it doesn't take a whole lot of info to make that thing go. And yeah, he could have really done a lot more. But I think he really wanted the fireworks display.
Well, the guy down in New Orleans definitely was wanting to take people out.
That's
that was the guy with a plan. He scouted his target. He made a plan. But apparently not a very good one. I mean, it sounds like he had some remote control explosive devices scattered around the area, all that. I mean, it sounds like parts of the plan did not go, or there probably would have been an even higher death toll.
You say that, but he killed more people than the average mass shooter did.
That's true.
You know, I mean, if you want to create a mess, he created a hell of a mess. And I'm not praising him in any way, but I will say that his approach to the attack, his tactics, techniques, and procedures, flawed as they might have been, were at least effective.
Well, Harry, let me ask you this in your professional military opinion. I mean, what do you think set both of them off? You know, I mean, everybody's, doing the conspiracy rabbit hole stuff, trying to link the two. I mean,
I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, and I'm not going to pretend to be. But what I can tell you is it's easy to see the trajectory of the New Orleans guy. He converted to Islam. He got radicalized. Probably when you look at the time and space on the timeline that we know of, when he went to Egypt, he became, and this is not rare. The shoe bomber was, I think, a British citizen who became radicalized. This is a known dynamic, and you don't have to do face to face. It can be done online. And so here's a guy who's disaffected, probably facing failures in life. Things weren't working out, had a couple of marriages that failed, and decided, gave himself to Islam, which is not a bad thing. But then went the additional step and decided, well, then I'm going to take it out on all the people who oppress Islam. That, again, that is a normal dynamic that we see happen again and again and again, and you're going to see happen.
So how do the other revelers oppress Islam?
First off, they were New Year's revelers. Mardi Gras ain't for another month or 2 months.
It's New Orleans.
Valid.
My second child was born in New Orleans. I got New Orleans then. I'll be there in 2 months before Mardi Gras. How? Because if you look at Bourbon Street, it is next to Las Vegas. It is like the most obvious sinful place in North America. I noticed it today. They were showing a picture of the memorial that the New Orleans people had put up with all the crosses or sticks or whatever it is they did, and in the background, like right there, the next business down on the road, it says Hustler Club.
Right.
And I thought, okay, that if you wanted to know the reason why he picked that target, he's only going to get centers.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well. And especially if you grow up or you spend a lot of time in Houston, then it's just like, I don't know, if you're in Phoenix, Vegas is an easy weekend road trip, and it's the Sin City getaway. And if you're in Houston or Baton Rouge or anywhere down there in the South, it's the New Orleans occupies that same space in people's minds.
And he grew up even 200 miles closer in Beaumont, where it's literally like a 4-hour drive.
Right over there, exactly.
Yeah. So I can understand why he did that. It was available, it was easy, and it's again, if you're on a religious bent and you're looking for a target that is going to signal your objection to Western society, New Orleans is a pretty good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the point being that none of this requires a conspiracy. This is a known trajectory. It's a thing that happens, and all the decisions are in that twisted mind frame are logical without needing conspiracy.
That's exactly right. If you want to do a truck suicide or truck whatever, mass driving through, you don't need anything other than a truck.
Right.
No, exactly. That's the wild part if you think about it.
Yeah, there was no conspiracy. I mean, Ed knows probably better than you guys, but I had it with the conspiracy about a half a day after by January 2nd, I was done.
Right.
Because there are just so many people going down rabbit holes on both sides of the fence that it was just like, stupid guys, relax.
And it's not a conspiracy.
Yeah. I made a comment on something Ed posted earlier, day or two ago, about, the guy was upset because, or somebody was saying that he couldn't be dead because the DNA of his son didn't match the corpse's DNA. And I thought, and I wrote, it's like, I think there's an easier explanation than to have his body swapped in the back.
People believe this stuff. I mean,
a lot of people. Oh my God.
It's a lot of people.
I stumbled on this right-wing podcast, which apparently is very, very popular. Sean something or other. And,
yeah. Sean Stone or Stoner or something like that. Yeah.
And so two guys sitting there, and I mean, it was just the conspiracy rabbit hole, and they weren't digging their way down. I mean, it was like running as fast as they can. Oh yeah, I got this email last night, from Stoner 567, and he used a super secret decoder ring to get a hold of me, and that's where I got all this stuff from. Is like, they were putting this out. It's like, yes, I mean, we have to really look into this. This needs to be investigated.
I do want to point out, Ed, this guy that got the email from the truck bomber guy, and I'm just going to say, let's just assume that's real. I think it probably is genuine. I think he probably did get that. He's got a Facebook page and a Instagram page, and it's terminal CWO. Which basically means I'm never going to be anything other, which is fine. I got nothing against CWOs. They have saved my ass. But a CWO2 is not the most senior guy on the planet. There are 5 grades of CWO. CWO5 sits next to the right hand of God the Father Almighty. He gets the same parking spaces that colonels get at the commissary. They get better treatment than I ever got. I'll tell you that right now. But a CWO2, I mean, that is basically one step above. I just graduated from warrant officer school. That's like somewhere between a first lieutenant and a captain. So it's not like he knows all that much stuff. He's an analyst. I got it. He worked his way up through the ranks, went to warrant officer school, got his warrant. Cool. Understand. Again, nothing against warrant officers. But to treat him like he is, some super secret guy sitting in the bowels of the Pentagon, that's not factual.
Yeah, with first person access to NSA stuff and the CIA, and
I would say if you've got first person access to that sort of stuff, you don't tell anybody you had first person access to it.
This was the Tesla guy.
Yeah, he was talking about the Tesla guys.
I haven't been following it.
So listen, there's like an hour-long conversation on social media, and if Ed ever sends this to you, you'll never get that hour of your life back. Don't. Just don't take my word for it. But it's this long conversation between this CWO2 who has an Instagram page, who got this email from a guy purporting to be the Cybertruck bomber who killed himself. And again, it's probably a genuine email, and it's just the email is a flight of fantasy about anti-gravity drones. And here's what got me. He said, I'm sending this to you, super secret squirrel, going to jump through all these cyber hoops to get it to you, because the FBI and Homeland Security know I've got a truck bomb, and I'm VBID is what he said, and I'm driving it, and they're not going to stop because they're afraid that I'm going to blow it up. And they're like, dude, you're driving across literally 500, 800 miles of desert. They can stop your ass in almost any place without anybody being at risk, and take your ass out. And if you don't know that as an E8 and special forces, then you clearly have lost your fucking mind. And that's what it is. You listening to a guy lose his mind and write shit that just makes no sense whatsoever because he is paranoid and suicidal.
But I mean, how many people are listening to it and taking it all in, and without critical thought?
Oh, he wanted to make it all of them. All of them. I guess we've lost him. No, but seriously, that's what happens in this ecosystem we've got, this info ecosystem we've got, is people believe what they want to believe, and they'll take any shred of of what they believe to be credibility. Oh my God! Well, he's a retired, Army intel analyst, without understanding where that intel analyst fit in on the ecosystem, what he actually knew and didn't know. I mean, I've known a shit ton of analysts, and some of them were great, and some of them weren't worth a damn. And none of them that had any self-respect would be putting out classified information or sharing it like that on the internet.
Yeah, well, that sort of pisses me off that these guys get that type of respect for their knowledge and experience. And here I am, a physician. I go out, very learned, give something. And it's like, well, what do you know? You're just,
right.
Well, because you're not saying what they want to hear. I mean, I've got a lot of experience and knowledge and education and training and experience to back it up. But if I'm not saying what MAGA wants to hear, then I'm just a fucking idiot.
Right. What happened to
Ken?
Yeah.
I think you offended him, Louis.
I offended him? Yeah. Or he was abducted by an alien or something.
I think that he's just been abducted by, MAGA zealots that,
That's right. And guess what, Ed? You're next.
You can try. Well, I mean,
I don't know. We're almost at 50 minutes here, so maybe he has the right idea.
Maybe he did.
But yeah, I mean, along those lines, I mean, that's one of the things that's, I'm waiting with, anticipation is really not the wrong word. Someplace between dread and anticipation, or a combination of the two, to see what kicks off on January 20th. Because I believe every word he said. That if he says he wants to do something, he's going to try everything he said.
I think that's fair.
It's like that weird calm before the storm feeling. It's weird.
I look at it more like it's the first episode in The Handmaid's Tale. The bad stuff hasn't started happening, but you've got this weird feeling that things just aren't right. And
right. There's something off.
Something's off.
Yeah.
Right.
You remember it took, quite frankly, and literally a year and a half from the time that Hitler took power in January of 1933 until the time that he had everything lined up in August, September of 1934.
Well, I think the timeline for Trump and the Republicans, they've already got everything lined up. You've got the Senate, the SCOTUS. The House is not a lot, but from that standpoint, you're ready to go.
He still doesn't have the institutional piece of it. They're still they really got to put Project 2025 in place to install their secretaries, their cabinet heads, and get rid of the senior civil servants, who, by the way, at that point they're all senatorially approved. They've all been blessed by the Senate to get to those positions. So getting rid of them is not that easy, but it can be done. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and that's what I think we're looking at, is how long is it going to take? Can they run out the clock? Can the institutional government, the deep state, which is a ridiculous term, but can the deep state run out the clock on Trump before the 2026 elections?
Well, that sounds like a good topic for next week.
It's a great topic, actually. Yeah.
Well, for everybody, we're running up on 50 minutes right now. I mean, we could be like last week and talk for another 45 minutes, but we're going to save some ammo for next week. So I think, we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about, what can happen, to keep, Trump from doing all the stuff that he says he's going to do. And, we're and just to let you know, we're going to save, sort of our look in a crystal ball and give predictions for the January 20th show. So if you're like everybody else, I am not turning the TV on to give them any credit that there's eyeballs watching Trump's inauguration. So it's like, I'm not going to let him come out and say, oh, my numbers were the best ever. Nobody ever had numbers like this.
It'll be on the news anyway. I don't need to see that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can be here, giving you a much better, more entertaining venue.
There you go.
Well, I
Well,
hope he can again. I hope it was just technical issues and he just didn't
Very,
get mad.
very technical. He heard a tree fall as
Yeah.
he lost access, and he thinks
I'm
that
reading that.
he says he lost all of his landlines.
God, jeez. A tree
Well,
fell down. I read his
There he
message.
goes. I now see his text. Okay. Well, yeah, good. I mean, in that he's not mad and it's bad, and that hope he doesn't have a whole lot of property damage. And on the plus side, maybe he's got a lot of firewood for the rest of next year.
Sounds like it.
Okay, guys. Same time, week from today.
I'm in.
We'll be talking about some more stuff.
All right.
Got it.
See you
fun,
later.
guys. Adios.
Politicians. Adios.